The first light of the day crept into my modest city apartment, gently nudging me awake. I stretched slowly, trying to soak in every ounce of energy I would need to get through another day. Next to me, my 8-year-old son, Joseph, was still sound asleep, a peaceful sight against the backdrop of the bustling city outside. I got up carefully, not wanting to disturb him, and made my way to the kitchen. As I began to prepare breakfast, the comforting aroma of fresh coffee filled the small space, promising a brief moment of solace in the cool morning. I heard Joseph's sleepy footsteps behind me and turned around, smiling as I pulled him into a warm embrace. "Good morning, my love," I said softly. "Did you sleep well?" I asked as I set out a simple breakfast, just some toast with a little butter and a fresh pot of coffee. Joseph rubbed his eyes and smiled back at me. "Good morning, Mom. I slept fine. How are you feeling today?" "Oh, my sweet boy." Even at his young age, he could sense when things weren't quite right. I took a deep breath and, trying to keep my tone upbeat, said, "I'm okay, Joseph. Today, I'm planning to look for a new job. While you're at school, I'll be going around to see if I can find something that brings us a bit more stability. Don't worry, sweetheart. Everything's going to work out." I ruffled his hair gently, and he looked up at me with eyes full of admiration and love. "You'll find something, Mom," he said with unwavering faith. "You're the strongest and most amazing person I know. I'll be cheering for you from school." His words warmed my heart, giving me the strength to face another challenging day. After breakfast, I helped Joseph get ready for school, making sure he was dressed warmly enough for the chilly day outside. "Remember to get on the right bus and come straight home after school, okay? I'll be waiting for you here," I reminded him as I walked him to the door. "I know, Mom. I've got it all memorized. Good luck with your job search. You'll find something, I just know it." "I love you," he said, giving me a quick kiss on the cheek before hurrying off to the bus stop. I stood at the door for a moment, watching Joseph make his way down the street toward another day at public school. As he grew smaller in the distance, a mix of pride and worry filled my heart. The weight of providing for him on my own pressed down on me, but Joseph's determination gave me the courage to keep moving forward. No matter how tough the road got, I wasn't going to give up. Back inside, I got ready with what little I had, putting on a simple yet clean outfit, preparing myself to face the day and any potential job opportunities. Before leaving, I took one last look at myself in the cracked mirror in the hallway, fixing my hair into a high bun. I took a deep breath, closed the door behind me, and stepped out with renewed hope. I knew it was going to be a long day, filled with knocking on doors and likely facing a lot of rejections. But the memory of Joseph's strength, his smile, and his encouraging words gave me the courage I needed. "I'll face whatever it takes for him," I murmured as I left the house. Making my way down the familiar path toward the local market, I used the few coins I had to buy some essentials. The morning air still held a hint of dawn's chill, and the city streets were already humming with the hurried rhythm of the day ahead. As I walked through the market, I went over the list of basic items I needed to buy. With what little money I had, I knew I needed bread. Maybe some vegetables. And if the price was right, a bit of chicken too. I could feel the weight of the coins in my pocket, each one counted and earmarked for something specific. When I arrived at the market, I headed straight for the stall with the best prices. I've always had a knack for picking out the freshest produce and calculating costs in my head, adjusting my choices to fit within my strict budget. The line at the register wasn't very long, but to me, it felt like an eternity. I was anxious to finish my shopping and continue my job hunt. Just then, I noticed a man named Austin standing behind me in line. He was wearing an elegant suit that was a stark contrast to my simple clothes. He had far more items in his basket than I did, and he quickly noticed the difference. With a polite gesture, he suggested that I go ahead of him, saying with a friendly smile, "Please, go ahead. You have much less than I do." I was taken aback by his kindness, and I thanked him as I moved ahead. I felt a mix of gratitude and discomfort, keenly aware of the stark difference between our realities. When I placed my groceries on the counter for the cashier to ring up, I watched each item go by, my heart beating a little faster with each beep. The total kept climbing, and when the cashier finally gave me the amount, my heart sank. "Here's your total, ma'am. How would you like to pay?" I froze. It was immediately clear to me that I had miscalculated. The total was just a bit higher than what I had counted on, more than I could afford. "There must be a mistake," I said, trying to keep calm as I mentally reviewed my list and counted the money again in my head. "I counted my money before coming here. It should have been enough," I continued, though my voice betrayed the uncertainty I felt inside. I began to search my pockets for the missing coins, my hope fading with every movement. The cashier waited, his eyes a mix of sympathy and growing impatience. Meanwhile, a line of customers started to form behind me, getting longer by the second. Austin was watching the whole scene unfold with a complex expression. While he didn't show much sympathy, it was clear he was surprised by the delicate situation I found myself in. He probably thought, "How can she not afford such a small amount of groceries? It's such a trivial sum." For a moment, it felt like the noisy market had gone silent, all eyes focused on this financial standstill. To some, it might have seemed like a minor inconvenience, but to me, it represented a significant hurdle in an already difficult day. "Just a moment, please," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I need to count the coins again." I could feel the weight of all those eyes on me, each one adding another layer of shame to my already difficult situation. It was one of those moments where I wished I could just disappear or find some magical solution to this mess. With trembling hands, I carefully laid each coin out on the counter, counting them one by one. My hope faded with every cent I counted, until the unavoidable truth stared me in the face. I didn't have enough money. The silence that followed was only broken by the clinking of the coins as they touched one another, each sound a painful reminder of my precarious situation. The cashier, trying to keep things moving for the growing line of customers, looked at me with sympathy, but it did little to ease the sting of my embarrassment. "I'm sorry, ma'am," he said, his voice carrying the finality of a judgment. "You don't have enough money, so I'm afraid I can't let you take these items." He started to pull the groceries off the counter, sorting them to be put back. My cheeks burned under the curious gazes of the other customers, and I quickly tried to explain myself, my voice tight with shame and desperation. "I'm really sorry," I stammered, the words tumbling out in a flood of frustration and need. "I thought I counted right. I've been out looking for work today, and this was just supposed to get me through until I found something. I'm so sorry." Then, out of nowhere, Austin, who had been watching this whole scene with a mix of interest and surprise, stepped in. He declared, "I'll cover her groceries," leaving no room for refusal. He handed his card to the cashier. The cashier seemed taken aback but quickly processed the payment. I wanted to protest, but the look on Austin's face, that firm expression and unwavering resolve, left no room for argument. "No thanks needed," he said, giving me a small, mysterious smile. "Think of it as a gesture of goodwill." As the cashier finished the transaction, Austin turned to me and casually started a conversation. "You mentioned you're looking for work," he said, with genuine curiosity in his voice. "Is it hard to find something that matches your skills?" I hesitated for a moment, still surprised by his unexpected kindness, but then I answered. "Yes, it's hard," I explained. "A lot of people are looking for jobs, and there seem to be so few opportunities, especially for someone like me without much formal education. But I have to keep trying, for my son's sake." As we talked, my voice grew stronger, showing a hint of the unshakable determination that I felt. The man in the suit listened intently, his interest growing as the conversation went on. I could tell he was thinking of something, plans starting to form in his mind. I later learned he was reminded of a fancy party he'd been invited to, one where all sorts of company owners would be gathering. I couldn't help but notice the curious glint in his eyes as he thought about how I might behave in an environment completely different from the market where we were standing. It almost made him smile, wondering, wouldn't it be something to see her among all those intelligent, successful people, way out of her league? That's what he seemed to be thinking, already plotting something in his mind. Then, he turned back to me while the cashier was ringing up his own groceries. He said there was an event coming up soon, a party with influential people, most of them business owners. He presented it like it was just a casual suggestion, but I could tell he had more in mind. It might be a good opportunity for you, he mentioned, as if he were simply offering a friendly tip. I was taken aback by his offer, and I shook my head, feeling unsure. I don't know if I belong in a place like that, I told him, my voice full of doubt. I'm not used to those kinds of events, and I'd probably do something wrong and make a fool of myself. The idea of mingling with important people like Austin, especially with him looking so polished in that expensive suit, made me hesitate. I couldn't help but think about my own lack of skills and how little experience I had outside the market. But he insisted, his interest in the situation clearly growing. He told me I might surprise myself, suggesting I think of it as an extension of his kind gesture that day. You never know what might happen, he added. Then he pulled a fancy invitation out of his suit pocket and handed it to me. Here, this is for next Saturday evening, he said. Think of it not just as a social event but as an opportunity. By the way, my name is Austin Davis. I looked at the invitation, feeling the smooth, elegant paper between my fingers. It was such a stark contrast to the world I was used to. Holding the envelope, I hesitated, caught between curiosity and caution. I don't know what to say, I admitted. This feels so far removed from my reality. But at the same time, it could be a good opportunity, maybe exactly what I need. My voice was low, reflecting the mix of emotions swirling inside me. Austin smiled, his expression encouraging but with a hint of mystery. Sometimes it's good to explore a new reality, he said. Who knows? You might find the opportunity you're looking for there. Don't worry about what to wear. Your usual clothes will do just fine. No one will laugh at you or mock you, so you can feel at ease. His words were comforting, but I could sense that something else was going on in his mind, something different from the kindness in his voice. Later, I would find out that he had other plans, ones that weren't as benevolent as he let on. He wanted to have a laugh at someone's expense, to poke fun and stand out as the biggest personality at the party. As I thought over his words, the idea of being in a place so different from my usual environment both scared me and sparked my interest. All right, I finally said, my decision driven more by a sudden burst of courage than by confidence. I'll go. And thank you for this and for what you did today. If I really do make it to the party, I guess I'll see you there. My name is Riley. Austin nodded, satisfied with my decision. Wonderful, Riley. I'm looking forward to seeing you there. I have a feeling it's going to be an interesting night for both of us, he said. With that, he picked up his already bagged groceries, gave a modest nod of farewell, and left me standing there alone with the invitation still in my hand. As I walked out of the market, I could feel the weight of the invitation in my pocket. It was both a burden and a promise. Austin's unexpected kindness hadn't just saved me from a difficult situation, it had opened a door to something completely beyond my comfort zone. I found myself wondering, will I really be able to handle this? My heart was beating fast with a mixture of anxiety and anticipation of the unknown. The sun was high, making the city streets hotter than ever, but to me, everything seemed different. In my pocket was an invitation to a fancy party, and my mind was filled with thoughts of a stranger's kindness. For the first time in a long while, I felt a flicker of hope for the future. I thought to myself, I won't spend today looking for a job. I've got this great opportunity in my hand, and I need to make the most of it. Not just for myself, but mostly for my son's happiness. When I got home, I barely had time to process everything that had happened when I heard Joseph's hurried footsteps mixing with the sound of the school bus pulling away. That familiar sound filled my heart with joy and reminded me why I was enduring all these struggles and sacrifices. When the door opened and Joseph came in, his eyes met mine, and a big smile lit up his face. "Mom!" he shouted, running to hug me. The strong, loving embrace was a refuge for my worries, a reminder of the comfort and love that still surrounded me. I asked, "How was school today, sweetie?" as I led Joseph to the kitchen and started preparing lunch with the groceries I'd managed to buy. Cooking with the ingredients Austin had helped me brought me back to a sense of normalcy. Still, my head was spinning with thoughts of the invitation. He said, "It was good. I learned a lot of new things and played with my friends at recess. The teacher praised my math test score and said I could do really well this year. Did you find a job today, Mom?" His eyes sparkled with innocent curiosity. I sighed, thinking back to the day's events, and gave him a gentle smile. "Well, no, I didn't find a job. But something unexpected happened." I started slowly, telling him about the man at the market, how he paid for my groceries, and, finally, about the invitation to the fancy party. My words were careful, and I could tell I still hadn't made up my mind about going. Joseph's reaction was immediate, filled with enthusiasm. "Wow, Mom, you have to go. It could be a big chance for you. He sounds like someone who really wants to help people in need. You can't let him down," he said, his eyes bright with excitement at the thought of his mom having an adventure. Encouraged by Joseph's response, I allowed myself to smile. His unconditional support eased my anxiety a little. "Do you really think I should go, son? I'm not even sure if I have the right clothes," I mused out loud. My clothes were old and worn, and nothing seemed suitable for such a fancy event. With that unmistakable determination that only children seem to have, Joseph stood up from the table and pulled me towards our modest little room. "Let's see what you've got, Mom. I'm sure there's something perfect in your closet," he said with such confidence, I almost believed him. Together, we rummaged through my small wardrobe, assessing each piece with a critical yet hopeful eye. Finally, we settled on a simple but elegant dress that I rarely had an occasion to wear. Joseph, with that assured tone of his, declared, "You'll look beautiful in this, Mom." Later, with the invitation to the party in my hand, I allowed myself to be swept away in a sea of possibilities. As the city around me settled into the quiet of the night, I lay on my bed, feeling the fine paper between my fingers. It felt like an entrance to another world, one where hope and reality intertwined in ways I had never imagined. I asked myself, should I really go, feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness bubbling up inside me? What if this night changes everything? That's what Joseph seems to think, and I believe in his hopes. Time passed, and finally, the day of the party arrived. As the sky turned a warm shade of orange, signaling the approach of dusk, I was engulfed in a whirlwind of emotions and anticipation. I stood in front of the mirror, trying on the dress we had chosen once again. Simple as it was, it held the quiet hope of transformation. Looking at my reflection, I made a conscious effort to breathe self-esteem and confidence into every fiber of my being. It was as unfamiliar to me as the party I was about to attend. I can do this, I told myself. I'll go there, and they're going to like me. I watched how the fabric fell over my body, searching for something in my appearance that seemed fitting for a fancy party. If someone doesn't like me, that's their problem. I'll just be myself, and everything will be fine. And if it isn't, well, life goes on. I could feel the anxiety creeping in, but I was more prepared now than I had been in a long time. As the time for the party drew near, the reality of leaving hit me like a ton of bricks. The weight of responsibility and expectation settled heavily on my shoulders. Before heading out, I turned to Joseph, my safe harbor in this sea of uncertainty. "Well, I'm off to the party," I said, my voice heavy with emotion. Joseph, wise beyond his years, held me tightly and said, "Take care, Mom. Don't worry, you're going to be okay." His unwavering trust in me shone brightly in his eyes. It was a kind of faith that knew no barriers, seeing my simple dress not as a flaw but as a symbol of my strength and determination. His words warmed my heart, and I made my way to the front door. I paused there for a moment, taking a deep breath to gather my strength. "You can do this," I whispered to myself, searching for the courage to dispel that last lingering shadow of doubt. "You have every right to be at that party, just like anyone else. You were invited, after all." I called for a taxi with the few coins left from Austin's kindness, a small reminder of this unexpected journey and the start of something new. And so, I stepped out from the routine of everyday life, heading into the night with the hope of beginning a new chapter.
At the venue, Austin had arrived earlier than Riley. His footsteps echoed confidently through the luxurious space, radiating a sense of superiority. He spoke to the doorman with a look that expected obedience, skipping any formalities. "Listen up," he began in a commanding tone. "Tonight, there's a guest who is different from the usual crowd." The doorman, used to the demands of wealthy patrons, waited carefully for instructions. "Her name is Riley Williams," Austin continued, a malicious grin spreading across his face. "You'll recognize her as a modest woman, so poor you can see it in her eyes. She probably can't even afford groceries. She's got reddish hair and a look that's totally out of place here." Austin's description dripped with contempt, painting Riley as someone unworthy of the surrounding luxury. "But let her in," he concluded with a cold chuckle. "It'll be interesting to see how someone like that behaves at a party like ours." There was no warmth in his laugh. Austin's words made it clear that he saw Riley not as an honored guest, but as a source of amusement, a pawn in his game of power and humiliation.
I let my mind wander as the taxi drove through the streets of New York, lit up by the city lights. I allowed myself to imagine what the night might bring. Underneath my anxiety and fear, a spark of excitement started to grow. "I'll be there soon," I thought to myself. "If just one person likes me tonight, maybe I'll get a job, or at the very least, make a new friend." As the taxi pulled up to the venue, I felt a wave of tension rush through my body at the sight of the enormous building, radiating power and wealth. The car stopped in front of a large gate, and I stepped out, looking up in awe at the grandeur of the structure that seemed to reach the night sky. "This is it," I whispered to myself, taking a deep breath before making my way to the entrance. The doorman was a stern-looking man in a neatly pressed uniform, standing as if he were waiting for a young woman like me to arrive. As soon as he saw me, he said something that caught me off guard. "Are you Riley, Mr. Austin's guest?" he asked, his voice carrying a mix of respect and authority. I was taken aback by his words. He had almost guessed my name and identity just by looking at me. "Yes, I am Riley Williams," I replied, my voice trembling slightly as a hint of unease crept in. "But how did you know my name just by seeing me?" The doorman checked the list on his clipboard, then nodded with a slight smile as he confirmed my name. "Welcome, Ms. Williams," he said. "Mr. Austin informed us ahead of time to let in anyone who matched your description and gave us your name as well. Please, come in. The party is in the main hall," he added, pointing toward an elaborately decorated elevator. I stepped into the elevator, still feeling a bit confused by the encounter with the doorman, trying to calm the whirlwind of emotions I was experiencing. Am I really doing this? I wondered, surprised at my own boldness. When the elevator doors opened, I was immediately enveloped by the sophisticated atmosphere of the hall. Soft music filled the space, creating a backdrop for lively conversations. My entrance did not go unnoticed. I could feel several pairs of eyes turning towards me, some filled with curiosity, others more judgmental. With each glance, I felt my nerves tighten even more. They must be wondering what someone like me is doing here, I thought, fighting the urge to run away. But refusing to give in to my nerves, I gathered as much confidence as I could and made my way to the bar. A drink might help calm me down, I thought, trying to relax and appear indifferent as I placed my order. As I waited, my eyes scanned the room, searching for Austin, the mysterious man who had set off this delicate chain of events. But he was conspicuously absent. He was like a shadow hanging over the party, present yet nowhere to be found. Austin, where are you? And why did you invite me? I wondered, my thoughts circling around the elusive man, my curiosity about his absence growing stronger. Determined not to let Austin's absence cast a shadow over the evening, I took my drink and began to walk around the hall. I took in the scene around me, the groups of people deep in conversation, the elegant dresses, the expressions on everyone's faces. I thought to myself, maybe, just maybe, I can actually fit in here somehow. The way these people carry themselves is intriguing. I'd like to talk to them, see what they're all about, and for a moment, I allowed myself a bit of optimism. Gradually, I started to notice that despite the lavish surroundings, there was something genuine in the interactions around me. People were laughing, sharing stories, and for a brief moment, I let myself forget my anxieties. It seems like everyone here is just looking to connect, to find some common ground. Maybe I'm not so different after all, I reflected, feeling a slight sense of comfort in this newfound realization. I decided right then and there not to spend the night hiding in the shadows of my own timidity. I'm going to talk to someone. I'm going to ask questions. I'm going to engage, I resolved, my heart beating wildly with a mix of nerves and excitement. It might have been a small step for many, but for me, it was the beginning of a night full of new experiences, and who knows, maybe a fresh start. With my drink in hand, I began to walk around the hall, trying to find my place amidst the conversations and laughter that filled the room. Despite the presence of so many influential people, I was determined not to be overwhelmed by my initial nervousness. That's when I noticed a woman observing one of the pieces of art that was part of the hall's decor. Encouraged by the lightness of my decision to participate, I approached her. "Excuse me, but this painting is really captivating, isn't it?" I said. My voice was confident yet friendly. I didn't know much about paintings, but I knew that any comment praising an artwork was a good conversation starter. And it worked. The woman turned to me with a gentle smile that lit up her face. "Oh, yes. This is one of my favorites in the collection." "You have a good eye," she replied. It wasn't long before I found out she was Diane Brown. "I'm Diane," she said. "Nice to meet you." "I'm Riley Williams," I introduced myself, immediately feeling a connection. Our conversation flowed naturally, moving from art to music, and eventually to our professional lives, or at least, hers. She didn't know the truth about my situation, nor did she expect it. "You might not have heard of me, but I'm the owner of Brown Auto, a network of car dealerships across the U.S., Diane explained. There wasn't a trace of arrogance in her voice, just a subtle kindness. Her humility took me by surprise. I had expected to meet people with more aloof or distant personalities at this party. "Of course, I know your name," I responded, genuinely impressed. That's an incredible achievement. I've always admired people who stand out in the business world. It's a tough field, and your network of dealerships is known across the country. Unfortunately, I couldn't afford to buy one of the beautiful cars your network sells when I visited, but someday, I will. My voice, with its humble and sincere tone, seemed to dissolve any pretense that the surroundings might have suggested. We continued our conversation for a few more minutes, and soon other business people began to drift over, drawn by Diane's enthusiasm and curiosity about the new face in their circle. "Diane, who is this kind friend?" asked a middle-aged man. His interest was clear. The conversation between Diane and me seemed exceptionally intriguing from afar. The exchange of smiles and words blended seamlessly into the familiar world of business. Meanwhile, Austin had yet to make an appearance. "This is Riley Williams," Diane introduced me, "a new acquaintance of ours tonight. Believe me, she has some fascinating perspectives on the current market and art. And her fashion sense is impeccable. Look at her dress, it must have been quite expensive. It exudes a subtle form of minimalism." With that, Diane further integrated me into the circle of conversation. At first, I was surprised by how quickly I was included in the conversation, but I soon adapted. Questions about economics, market trends, and innovation began to be directed at me, and I answered with my personal opinions. Even though I wasn't an expert in the field, my life experiences provided a simple yet solid foundation for my responses. "I think the business world is great for the country," I commented. "It helps drive our economy. There's still a lot of bias against the business world. People think everyone's a villain, but there are good people out there too." As the conversation progressed, my confidence grew, and the positive impression of the business world continued. But that wouldn't last long. The surrounding business people were impressed by my understanding and ability to discuss relevant topics. "You have a very clear vision for someone who doesn't frequently attend events like this, at least, not someone I've seen before. You should join our meetings more often. We could exchange knowledge between your company and ours," one of them said. This comment made me feel even more accepted, despite my previous concerns and the fact that I wasn't who they had expected. As the night went on, I found myself involved in various conversations, but something still felt off. My mind began to sink into thought. Where is Austin? He said he would come to this party, yet I haven't seen him. The conversations are going well, but he's the only one who knows the truth about me. If they discover the truth and become upset, Austin would be the one to protect me from their judgments.
Austin, who had been spending time in a special room of the building with certain friends, finally made his way into the main hall. He had spent most of the evening quietly observing from a distance, waiting for the moment to see the reactions of other guests to Riley's presence. Upon entering the hall, his eyes immediately found Riley. To his surprise and irritation, she was surrounded by a group of influential businesspeople, all deeply engaged in conversation with her. Contrary to the plan, Austin was shocked to see that Riley was neither ostracized nor ignored. In fact, she was being accepted and listened to. Trying to turn the situation to his advantage, Austin approached a few businesspeople who were outside the group and began to whisper doubts about Riley. "Have you seen who I've brought to the party tonight? I heard she's so poor she can't even afford her own shopping in the market." "This is a joke," he said, hoping to provoke laughter or at least stir some interest in his words. However, his attempts were futile. The businesspeople merely nodded slightly and soon returned their attention to their conversation, leaving Austin to speak alone. Frustrated by the lack of reaction he expected, Austin decided to take a more direct approach. Cutting through the constant hum of conversation, Austin raised his voice and declared, "Everyone, are you really impressed by someone who doesn't belong to the business world? Tonight's star, Riley Williams, is nothing more than an ordinary woman with no company and no name in the business world. How could she contribute to our discussions? She doesn't belong here. Austin's words echoed through the hall, drawing astonished and uncomfortable glances from the guests. He continued, implying that Riley's presence was a disruption, and suggesting she didn't understand the difference between a business meeting and a shopping list. His venomous words were meant to humiliate Riley and reaffirm his own status.
I felt as though the cruel words had struck me like a physical blow, leaving me stunned and humiliated. Yet, instead of cowering, I lifted my chin high and met Austin's gaze with a strength that belied my outward appearance. In that tense moment, it became clear that I was not alone, despite Austin's intentions. The surrounding glances, no longer filled with mere curiosity, spoke volumes of solidarity and even respect. They were more eloquent than any attempt to belittle me. At that moment, one of the influential businessmen from the tech sector broke the silence. "This is absolutely unacceptable," he said, his voice charged with indignation. "We are not here to belittle others, especially not a guest who clearly has much to offer." Murmurs of agreement began to ripple through the guests, each one voicing their discontent with the situation. Then, Diane Brown, who had been a silent observer until now, stepped forward. Her expression was stern, and her voice carried an undeniable authority. "This is not just unacceptable, it goes against everything we stand for tonight," Diane began, her disappointment evident. "Austin, what you have done not only tarnishes the reputation of this group but also shows a lack of character and respect for others. This is not something acceptable among the business community." Austin tried to interject, but Diane raised a hand, silencing him with a single gesture. "No, I am not finished," she continued, as the room hung on her every word. "This event was organized to share ideas and build bridges, not to create division or humiliate others." Turning to me, who maintained my dignity in the face of the humiliation, Diane offered a gesture of solidarity. "Riley, I am truly sorry you had to endure this. This does not reflect the values of anyone here, except for the one who made those remarks." Finally, Diane addressed everyone with a decisive tone. "And Austin, I must ask you to leave this party. Your presence is no longer welcome here." The guests watched, some with satisfaction and others with surprise, as Austin, clearly shaken and filled with anger, left the hall. His departure was met with a collective sigh of relief, a sense that justice had been restored. The atmosphere of the gathering was restored to its previous warmth. Diane approached me, placing a comforting hand on my shoulder. "I hope you will continue to stay with us. Please see this as an isolated incident and not a reflection of the people here. You are genuinely welcome to be with us and to participate. And as for Austin, rest assured he will face the appropriate consequences after today's events." My eyes shone with gratitude and emotion as I looked at Diane and everyone around me. "Thank you, Diane, and everyone," I said, my voice trembling with feeling. "Your solidarity means more than I could ever express. I am not like you, my life has been nothing like this. But I am truly grateful to be here tonight." Diane, clearly pleased by my response and driven by curiosity, wanted to know more about me behind the recent events. "Riley, if you don't mind, I'd love to learn more about you," Diane said, her voice filled with sincerity. "Why are you here with us tonight?" Encouraged by the support and empathy I felt from those around me, I began to share my journey. "Well, life has led me down a path I could never have imagined," I started. I spoke of the challenges I faced as a single mother, the daily struggle to provide for my child, and the chance encounter with Austin that led to this invitation, now becoming a distant memory. After my ex-husband left us, I had to manage everything on my own. A few weeks ago, I lost a cleaning job at a woman's house and have been searching for work since then. Austin said tonight was a good opportunity, so here I am. As I finished, I could see the impact my story had on everyone. Some listeners had tears in their eyes, moved by the resilience and strength I had shown. To maintain such a positive and hopeful outlook despite all you've been through is truly inspiring, a middle-aged businessman remarked, clearly touched. At that moment, Diane, moved by sympathy and respect, made a decision that felt absolutely right. "Riley, I am deeply moved by your story and your strong character," she said, drawing everyone's attention. "Someone with your determination and positivity deserves a chance." With a smile, Diane continued. "As a gift for your resilience, I'd like to offer you one of the models from my car dealership. And more importantly, I want to offer you a job at our company. You'll start in sales, with the promise of growth within the company. Your story is a testament to what you can achieve when you set your mind to it." After announcing the car and the job offer, Diane turned to me, waiting for my response. "So, Riley, are you ready to start this new chapter with us?" I overcame my initial shock and the tears that threatened to spill, and answered with a radiant smile. It brightened the entire room. "Yes, Diane, I'm more than ready," I said, my voice firm with newfound resolve. "Thank you so much for this incredible opportunity." The guests around us erupted in applause, acknowledging not only Diane's generosity but also my courage and resilience. After the announcement, several businessmen approached me, offering their congratulations and support. One of the things I heard was, "Riley, if you need anything, here's my business card," as some of them said while handing me a card. Another person added, "And if you're interested in expanding your skills, our company has training programs that might catch your interest." As the evening wore on, I found myself surrounded by new friends and future colleagues. Each conversation opened doors to possibilities I hadn't imagined before. As the party came to a close, I prepared to leave, feeling a deep sense of belonging and a promising future ahead. Turning to Diane, I said, "Tonight has changed my life. I'm thrilled about the future and promise to do my best in this new role. Thank you from the bottom of my heart." Diane smiled with satisfaction, clearly pleased with the positive impact she had started. "Welcome to the team, Riley. I'm confident you'll bring great change to Brown Auto, just as you did to so many people at tonight's party." With these encouraging words and the promise of a new beginning, I left the party. I left not as the person who had walked in, but as someone with a new direction, filled with hope and opportunities. On the way home, my heart felt light. I was buoyed by the night's events, but as I opened the door to my small apartment, my sleepy son Joseph appeared, waiting for his mother's return. "How was it, Mom?" he asked, his eyes sparkling with curiosity and excitement. I smiled, knelt down, and hugged him. "It was unbelievably wonderful, Joseph." Far beyond what I imagined, I began, sharing the unexpected generosity of Diane, the new car, and the promise of a job with growth potential. With each word, Joseph's face lit up more and more, reflecting the change and fate that seemed to be waiting for us. "So, does that mean our lives will get better, Mom?" Joseph asked, his voice brimming with hopeful optimism. Even in his sleepy state, he showed all his expectations. "Yes, my dear. It's going to get so much better. We've met incredible people who promised to help us when we needed it. And now that I have a job, we can celebrate our days together the right way, my little treasure," I replied, my faith in our future renewed by the possibilities before us. In the following months, my life changed drastically. I used to dream of courage that felt almost out of reach. Now, every morning, I drove to work in my new car, a symbol of the new life and opportunities stretching out before me. Arriving at Brown Auto, I was greeted by the warm smiles of my colleagues, who quickly became friends and mentors. Diane was always a source of encouragement, keeping a watchful eye on my progress and offering advice and opportunities to broaden my skills. Under Diane's guidance and with the support of the team, I excelled not only as a salesperson but also began to chart a promising path toward management. After one meeting where I presented several ideas to improve customer service, Diane told me, "Riley, you have a natural talent." I'm impressed. As days went by, my confidence in my abilities grew, and I felt more secure in my place in the world. I wasn't just building a career, I was creating a future for Joseph and me, a future full of promises and freed from the uncertainty that had long shrouded my life.
Meanwhile, Austin was facing a completely different fate. The repercussions of his actions from that crucial party night reverberated through his social and professional circles, leading to the loss of valuable business partnerships. The company he had once taken so much pride in began to crumble piece by piece, leaving him with no choice but to sell it off to pay off recent debts. Alone and stripped of the status and wealth that once defined him, Austin was forced to start anew with the scant resources he had left. He opened a small market, a modest venture that was a far cry from the lavish party venues he once ruled over. The irony of his new beginning did not escape him. Now, he was on the same side of the equation he had once so despised in Riley. Life has a way of teaching harsh lessons, and for Austin, those lessons came in the form of humility and atonement. Working every day at the market, he slowly began to rebuild his life, not as the arrogant big shot he once was, but as someone who had learned the value of respect and compassion. Riley and Joseph, meanwhile, now enjoyed a more stable and hopeful life, often reflecting on that night as a turning point in their lives. For Riley, it was not just Diane's generosity or the promise of a job that changed her trajectory, but also the strength she discovered within herself. She learned that no matter how tough the situation, there is always a path forward and light at the end of the tunnel. Joseph watched his mother's progress with admiration. Riley's transformation from a woman overwhelmed by life's challenges to a confident and respected professional became an inspiration for him.
One night, Joseph looked up at me and said, "Mom, when I grow up, I want to be as strong as you." His eyes shone with pride and affection. "Joseph, you're already strong," I told him, pulling him close. "We've overcome so much together. And you've always been there, encouraging me to be the best version of myself. You're already stronger than most kids your age, and I know you'll only become more resilient with time." I looked into his hopeful eyes and added, "And as long as we're together, we can face anything."
Across town, Austin's new life at the market was modest, but it began teaching him the value of community and simplicity. The people who came into his store were not just customers, they became friends, sharing their stories and support with him. Little by little, he started seeing life from a new perspective and learned that success isn't measured just by a bank balance, but also by the richness of relationships. In moments of reflection, Austin realized just how empty his previous world, colored by materialism and unrestrained competition, had been. Perhaps this isn't the end, but a new beginning, he said to himself as he closed the market for the day. A sense of peace, something he hadn't felt in a long time, began to fill his being.
Becoming a crucial part of Brown Auto, I found not only financial stability but also a sense of purpose. Diane and I became more than just colleagues, we grew into close friends, bound by mutual respect and our belief in the power of positive change. My journey from hardship to triumph turned into a legend among my colleagues and in the community. It became a testament to what can be achieved with courage, determination, and the support of true friends. Every morning as I drove to work, I knew each day held new opportunities to create a brighter future for Joseph and me. So, my story and Austin's, though different in our paths, were forever intertwined by that fateful night that changed our lives. For me, it marked the beginning of a new era, filled with success and a profound sense of accomplishment.
Both of them found new beginnings in their own ways, proving that even in the darkest moments, there is always room for growth, redemption, and hope. Did you enjoy this story? Please hit like and subscribe to the channel. Your support motivates us to keep updating almost every day. Don't forget to check out the video currently displayed on your screen. See you in the next story of overcoming challenges.